My name is Neil Mueller. I grew up in Minnesota. I'm 27 years old. I've climbed the tallest mountains on 5 continents, which includes McKinley, Elbrus, Aconcagua, Kilimanjaro, and Vinson. I'll be climbing Mount Everest in April and May of this year. And then after that, I'll be doing the tallest mountain on the last continent, number 7, which is Kosciuszko, in December of 2005. The interesting thing about mountaineering is it's great for people that like tangible goals. Once you reach the summit of a mountain, you've reached the summit, and you're there. It's an objective, tangible goal that you've reached. Unlike golf, where you can always get a lower score. So I started out my mountaineering doing day trips. A day trip is where you drive to the base camp, you climb the mountain, and you return to your car that same night, and then you return back to wherever you live. These kind of mountains can be very technically difficult, but they'll never be as technically difficult as an expedition, which is comprised of multiple days. The reason why multiple days is difficult is because it requires consistent execution against your goal. You have to be able to persevere and have the planning that you've done before the mountain be able to support you as you're climbing the mountain. So you have to have brought the necessary gear. If you forget something that's critical, it's going to affect your expedition. You also have to plan for eventualities that you may not have expected, such as bad weather, which may make you stay there for an extra day. Just like in business, consistent execution is crucial on these long expeditions because of the nature of how important planning is. Every major mountain that I've climbed has always had a head wall at the very end. Now these head walls are extraordinarily steep and long, and they're really the worst part of summit day. And it's always that last pitch before you get to the summit that is usually the steepest of the day. And it's unbelievable how it's been always that way, but that's just how these mountains are structured. There's always a summit cone. And getting above that summit cone requires an extra oomph that a lot of mountaineers, a lot of people give up at that point. Right when you reach the summit cone, there's a lot of people that turn around. The ability to persevere beyond that summit cone is what really makes these mountains so gratifying. Every major mountain is filled with false summits. So as you're climbing the mountain, if you aim just for what you think is the next summit, when you reach that, the majority of the summits that you think you see on the horizon as you're doing your summit day aren't going to actually be the real summit, which is why you kind of have to aim beyond the summit. Every mountain, when you get to what you think is the next hill, you usually find out there's a hill after that. And in fact, every mountain that I've been on, these tall ones, there's always been a case of valleys and hills that come up and they give you the sense that you've reached it, but you haven't. I once heard a really old mountaineer tell me that anything above 20,000 feet has absolutely nothing to do with physical fortitude. It has everything to do with mental fortitude. I hadn't felt that until I got to Aconcagua. The summit of Aconcagua lies at 23,000 feet. So you're hiking day after day. To get to 20,000 feet requires that you carry a heavy pack and that you walk along uneven terrain along with a group of other mountaineers. Above 20,000 feet, it's no more grueling, but the oxygen is so thin that every activities like zipping up your sleeping bag is extraordinarily taxing on your system. Now imagine putting a heavy pack on your back and walking for 8 hours. That's extremely taxing, but not in the kind of physical way that you feel after you get done with a sprint. It's like an internal kind of taxing. It taxes you to the bone, and you begin. Many people who, before they got to the mountain, really wanted to reach the summit, they lose their will to reach the summit. That's when moral fortitude really comes in, and that's when you test your body's endurance. It's not that your heart is racing. I mean, your heart is beating fast, but it's a kind of will that you find from within to reach the summit. Exploring your edges is all about growth. I mean, companies want to grow. They want to double their size, triple their size. If you want to do that, you have to take on a certain amount of risks, like hiring extra people, like approaching different customer segments that you haven't ever approached before. These are risks. But if you think your edge lies beyond the current size of your company in this case, and you think you can grow to meet a new edge, these are risks you have to take. The same thing is true in mountaineering. If you think that your body can withstand climbing a taller mountain, then you have to take a chance and climb those taller mountains and find out where your edge lies. At least then you know you've reached the top of your game. And I think in general life is about reaching the top of your game.